Can't believe it, but the November 2024 election is rapidly approaching. We are now in January with the primaries going to be popping off. And, know the difference between what a primary is and what a caucus is, because each state has different approaches. Illinois is a primary state, and not only is Illinois a primary state where the taxpayers pay for the private parties to hold their party primaries. We've got the Republicans and the Democrats that have filed across the state for state house and Senate seats and U.S. House seats and a variety of other positions. But you also have the presidential electors. And if you vote in primaries here in Illinois, you see that, there's like 4 presidential electors and 4 alternates, or is it 5? I can't remember, per candidate. So, for instance, Donald Trump will have presidential electors, and those electors have to file petitions to get on the nominating ballots, and the primary is March 19th. So this week started the registration of the presidential electors, and front page of the State Journal Register this morning clearly shows that Trump is there on getting ready to, not at here in Springfield, but his supporters were there in force, holding up their signs and whatnot, and filing their papers. But there are now objections that have been filed, and the objections seem to indicate they are objecting because they say Donald Trump's an insurrectionist for inciting the January 6th, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. I don't think Trump has been charged for insurrection. He's not been found guilty of insurrection. Even when the second impeachment happened, he was acquitted in the Senate. So interesting to see that argument. And we've seen it play out in Colorado and Maine and some other states. And even Donald Trump has appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. But how's this going to play out in a state like Illinois? I talked with Matt Dietrich. He is the spokesperson for the Illinois State Board of Elections. And he's always good to really just give you the trajectory of how things go, especially when it comes to election law in Illinois, and when there are objections and how those objections play out and who's making the decisions and where all this can go. So while Colorado and Maine and some other states had this already dealt with to a degree, even like, the Colorado Supreme Court making their decision, even though it was split, now it's going to the U.S. Supreme Court. But here in Illinois, we've got quite a trajectory to go to deal with this. Here's Matt Dietrich talking about that.
Well, we received the objection today, shortly after Donald Trump's representatives filed his petition sheets and other paperwork here. What happens from here is on January 17th, we will assign this objection to a hearing officer. And our hearing officers here at the Board of Elections that handle our objections are a mix of election attorneys, retired executive staff from the State Board of Elections, some retired judges. And what they do is they will then have a scheduling conference with the candidates' representatives and the representatives of the objectors. And then they hold a hearing and they hear from both sides. They do their own research and they file a report on the objection, and they then make a recommendation and they forward that in their report to our general counsel. Our general counsel then reviews those materials and makes her recommendation to our full board. And that's going to happen on January 30th. So January 30th is really the day that this objection will be heard and will be decided upon from our perspective. Now, what can happen when it goes before our full board is, and I should probably give a little background here, we are governed by an 8-member board. The 8-member board is made up of 4 appointed Democrats and 4 appointed Republicans. For any board vote to take effect requires 5 votes. So you cannot have a one party unilaterally making any decisions. It takes at least 5 votes to make a board order effective. So what will happen on January 30th is the board will hear from our general counsel. They can hear from the objector and from the candidate side, and then they'll take a vote on it. And they can vote to sustain the objection, in which case the candidate would not be certified to the ballot. They can vote to overrule the objection, in which case the candidate would be certified to the ballot. Sometimes they can deadlock at 4-4. If that happens, then it's considered that no action has been taken on the objection, and the objection effectively dies, and the candidate would be certified to the ballot. Now, our board can make a motion on any number of things, so it's not necessarily that cut and dry that it would be a vote to sustain, a vote to overrule. A number of things could happen, regardless of what happens on January 30th. Whichever side disagrees with our board's ruling has the right to then seek judicial review. In other words, to take the case to court and go before a judge and try to overturn our board's decision. And that can wind its way all the way up to the Illinois Supreme Court if necessary. So it's possible that that's what could happen with this case. In the meantime, next Thursday on January 11th is the statutory date when our board is required to certify the March 19th primary ballot. So next Thursday on January 11th, our board will meet to decide on 32 objections that are currently pending before it. And it will then, after it decides those objections, it will then certify the ballot. Now, because there is this objection pending before Donald Trump and potentially any other objections to presidential candidates that may be filed before next Thursday, Donald Trump will most likely be certified to the ballot with the words objection pending next to his name. Then, as I said earlier, our board will hear that objection on January 30th, and then it will make its ruling, and it will file an amended certification of the ballot. So it's a little complicated, but what people need to remember on this is that our board will hear this particular objection on January 30th. Whichever side disagrees with our board's decision on January 30th, then can take it to court if they so choose. And from there, it's really under the purview of the courts.
So again, that's Matt Dietrich. He is the spokesperson for the Illinois State Board of Elections. And I'm looking here at the most recent filings that have been made for presidential electors. And I was going to flash the screen, but it's got people's addresses on it. If you want to look it up, you can see it yourself. Just search Illinois State Board of Elections, go to the top and click on candidate filings. I'll show you that much at least. So if you go to candidate filings and results, you can see who has filed and all of the most recent names, even their addresses, but I don't feel like doxing people in front of, thousands of people. But anyway, so I'm just going to take a look here, and you've got Biden delegate filing. You've got a filing for Marianne Williamson, who's a Democrat looking to challenge Biden in the Democratic primary. But you also have others who have filed for Democrat president. Dean Phillips has filed to run for president on the Democratic ticket, and of course Biden as well. But for Republicans, you've got Ryan Binkley. I'm not sure who that is. They're a Republican who's filed for president. You've also got Nikki Haley for Republicans, Ron DeSantis for Republicans, and also Donald Trump filing as well. But you've got all of these delegates that have filed for these various candidates. So I'm seeing DeSantis, Trump delegates, Haley delegates, DeSantis, Trump. I don't see Vivek Ramaswamy on here. Nor do I see Chris Christie delegates on here. And what happened to Mike Pence? Has anybody seen Mike Pence? Did he officially drop out? Did he officially suspend the former vice president? Did he officially suspend his campaign? But yeah, Haley, Biden. Just looking at all the different delegates there are, right? Because these delegates, Trump delegates, a whole bunch of them. I'm not seeing anybody for Ramaswamy or Chris Christie. He backed out. Okay. All right. So ABW 121 says that he backed out. Mike's AWOL. That's funny. So anyways, you look at all the different people who are going to be on the ballot supporting these particular candidates on either the Republican or the Democrat ballot. Now, here's the thing also. You got to remind yourself here in Illinois, you have to declare a party when you go to the primary to pull a ballot. All right. So you want to, make sure your voice is heard in the Republican primary. When you go to your polling place, you've got to request a Republican ballot if you want to vote in the Democrat primary. Because it looks like, Biden obviously is going to, be on the ballot. He's the incumbent. But you've got Marianne Williamson throwing her hat in the ring for the Democrats, and a few other candidates as well that have filed for the Democratic ticket, including Dean Phillips. Not sure who that is. But regardless, that's definitely something to watch. But the challenge that's in front of the Illinois State Board of Elections against Trump says it's pending, and it's from Anderson, Holly, Hickman et al. V. Trump. And we have yet to see, at least myself, the official filing, what the objection is, but it's being reported that it is because they claim that Trump's an insurrectionist and blocked from the ballot because of the 14th Amendment. Here is Matt Dietrich, State Board of Elections spokesman. I asked him what the nature of the objection is, and he, quite frankly, just can't disclose it at this time.
That I can't discuss because we do not release anything related to objections until they are in the hands of a hearing officer. That's not going to happen until January 17th. So I can't talk about anything with the substance of this particular objection. Now, obviously, it is out there. It's being discussed in the news media. The objector has made it freely available. But because we are the judge and jury in this process, we don't discuss anything on the substance of the objections until the hearing officer has it in their hands and until both parties are into the hearing process with their hearing officer.
Great. All right, I think I've got. There you go. That's Matt Dietrich talking yesterday with me about the process of getting the objections filed and dealt with. And one thing he did say is expect Trump's name to be on the ballot because they have to certify the ballot. March 19th is the primary here in Illinois, but he says it could have, an asterisk there saying objection pending, and could go all the way to the Illinois Supreme Court, a Democrat-dominated Illinois Supreme Court. What if the U.S. Supreme Court takes up Trump's challenges of Colorado and Maine and maybe some other states before then? Is that going to be able to impact Illinois? And then you've also got to consider the primary itself. Again, you have to declare a party. You have to select all of the electors for the candidate you want. And then, we'll see how that comes out in the wash for the Republicans and the Democrats. And then you've got the general election in November. But before then, you've got the Democratic National Convention in August in Chicago, planning on going up there and covering that, by the way. But in July, you've got the Republicans that are going to be holding their presidential nominating convention in Milwaukee. But what about the third parties? When do they get a chance to get on the ballot? Here in Illinois, taxpayers pay for the major parties to hold elections for their primaries. Other states do private party caucuses. The parties get people together at a coffee house and they raise their hands and whatnot. That's how they do their primaries. They caucus and decide things before the November election. Illinois, though, hey, taxpayers pick up the bill for the Democrats and the Republicans to do their elections for the primaries. But what about the third parties? They've got a much higher threshold of signatures they've got to get on the ballot, and that's not going to come until well after the March primary. So we won't know who else is going to be on the presidential ballot. Could we see RFK Jr.? Could we see, some other third-party contenders? Surely they will be lining up, but the filing period for them in Illinois is still months away. The filing period for independent candidates to run for state house still months away. So there's a lot more to still be had. We're in the throes of the 2024 election cycle as it is right now. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you so much for being part of the program. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Hopefully you're informed to a degree and you stay plugged in because we'll be back at it on Monday. All right, so like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air.